There is so much to be thankful for. And on November 22nd, in America anyway, we will be celebrating Thanksgiving Day. And as wonderful as that celebration of Thanksgiving Day is, it seems, at least to me, that for so many, it's a time that we have a yearly ritual. You know, it seems to be a ritual of cooking this outlandish and huge meal and then stuffing ourselves. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, God, that we're able to do that we have so much abundance. But then next, what do? We waddle over to the sofa and we sit down and we turn on the TV and we watch some football and we might take a nap, like you say, because we're so stuffed with turkey. And then finally, we get up and we waddle back to the kitchen and we stuff ourselves with leftovers. I see that people are relating to this. At least that's what we seem to do. And you know, other than maybe a simple, quick prayer over the food, you know, before we eat it and gobble it down, and then sometimes we don't even do that, you know, it makes me wonder, where is the thanks in Thanksgiving Day? Where is the thanks in Thanksgiving Day? See, giving thanks, I think, is just so very important that I propose this idea that we have Thanksgiving Day every day. However, without that ritual of doing all that food and everything and eating and stuffing ourselves like that. Go on a serious eating pattern, I guess. You know, that means that today, like we sang about, is our Thanksgiving Day. Right now, today. Tomorrow can be our Thanksgiving Day, and every day thereafter. So we're going to be all prepared for that big holiday celebration called Thanksgiving Day. Because expressing thanks and having a grateful, open heart opens the door of God's goodness to each one of us. In fact, I have to confess to you that I want to start having an attitude. Is that okay? Can I have an attitude? Okay. My attitude is like that Richard Medici song. I want to have an attitude of gratitude. An attitude of gratitude. Having an attitude of gratitude will definitely smooth out the rough spots on our journey, on our spiritual path. So I think having every day as a Thanksgiving Day is a great idea, especially if it's going to smooth out those rough spots. Does anybody have those rough spots right now? Yeah, few rough spots. Well, how do we begin? You know, that might sound like a tremendous task of having every day our Thanksgiving Day, but one day we can do it is to begin a gratitude journal. And you know, I've told you before, I just love the Mastermind Journal so much because in that process, there's one page that is nothing but a gratitude page for the whole month. And I was just looking at this, I thought, well, I want to give an example of the Mastermind, and so it doesn't have to be those great big things, you know, but like I had listed back in August, a CD from my friend Norris. Egg salad sandwich from Eileen. Thank you. That reminded me. Well, that was sweet. New curtains for our bedroom. The birds singing as I woke up. Grateful for the meditation with Bertram and going deeper. We were all alone. Eileen was out of the country then. I remember that, Bertram. That was wonderful. So back in August, what a grateful thing to be grateful for. A blessing. So it doesn't have to be those big things. Oprah once had on her show even all about keeping a gratitude journal, and I think listing 5 things that you were grateful for that day, and that it would change your life and it would change your attitude about life. So I think that beginning to keep a gratitude journal is, an excellent beginning to get ourselves in the habit of thinking about all of our wonderful blessings. However, for all of us that are on the spiritual path, we have this feeling that we need to go a little bit deeper than that, don't we? We know that by going deeper, we'll fully activate God's presence and God's good into our life. And I'd like to read a quote from The Quest from Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola, who were once the directors of Silent Unity, about this very thing of going deeper. And they say on page 323 in The Quest, we can intellectualize about all the things we have in our life for which we are grateful. We can make lists, long lists, of the innumerable reasons we should give thanks. This is good because it helps us realize just how extremely blessed we are. We all have something, many things, for which to give thanks. Still, the list, the realization, the words are not enough. They are only helpful if they lead us into that feeling of thanksgiving. We need the feeling, the inner fullness of a grateful heart in order to tap into that power that is within us. Feelings activate the power which makes the changes and does the work. That's so important. Feeling makes the changes and helps us to do the work that we need to do to make our lives so wonderful. The power of gratitude is found in that feeling nature. We've heard that time and time again, that it's not just words that we're saying, but it's that deep feeling nature. It's that emotional response that we're sending out to the universe. And the power of gratitude is found in the words that we do speak, the praise that we say aloud. For just a moment now, think of this example. Think about your dog if you have one, or if you've had one, or if you know a friend who's had a dog. And think about the time that you wanted to teach it to do some trick, and that you were going to give it a treat afterwards for doing that wonderful trick. And so the dog did the trick, whether it's to roll over or to, stand up and beg or whatever the trick is. And then you gave that dog the treat. And then it wagged its tail and you probably patted it on the head. Didn't that whole act, that symbiotic relationship, just want to have the dog to do more and more for you, and you were really engaged with being with the dog also, and there was joy and there was gratitude and love there. Also, it's a scientific proof that plants in the plant kingdom respond to praise and love. Oh, I see you shaking your head because I was going to ask you, who knows that? There's been scientific experiments done, with prayer over plants. And when you praise your plants, they say that they grow healthier and stronger and wonderful. I see you. Hold up your hand if you've done that with your plants. Hey, look at there at all those plant people. Whoo! That's wonderful. So you know what I'm talking about with praise. Well, the very best thing is to look at the human kingdom, though. And Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founder, did this very thing of praising the cells and the organs in her body when she was ill, and she healed. You see, she went to this lecture by Eugene B. Weeks, and after she walked out of that auditorium, she heard, "I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit illness." Now think about this, people. This was at the turn of the century. Think about where our religious ideas were at the turn of the century. Can you imagine some lady in a Victorian-like gown walking out and going, well, I'm a child of God? You know, I'm sure that probably people thought, ooh, because this wasn't around. There weren't Unity Centers around. There wasn't the own bookstore down the road there, you know. There wasn't Windhorse that we can go to. This was a long time ago. And she kept that up in her prayer time. So it's important to have her prayer time, of course. And she blessed every cell and tissue in her body and was healed. And was healed. Praise is so important. So she lived another 40 years after that dire prediction that she would be dead shortly. So each one of us, as Unity students, could we not do the same thing if we are feeling less than healthy? To begin blessing the cells in our body, the organs and the tissues, and know with that deep knowing that they can be regenerated and healed. Wow, it happened to Myrtle. We can't just say, well, it happened to her way back there. You know, it can happen today. It can happen today if we just keep doing that. Just keep doing that. And it's not the turn of the century anymore, folks. It's not the turn of the century. If she could do it back then, we can do it today. You know, there are just so many things, little things that we can do to begin creating our Thanksgiving Day. One thing that we can do is to begin to pray over our food and thank for all that where it came from and all the people that put it together. And you know, we don't eat from our gardens much anymore, but we're learning, aren't we? Janie does, yeah, and we're beginning to, yeah. We know with the changing times, we've all heard about that what we need to do is to get back to our food source. But we know that our food comes from various places all over the world, and you know, how grateful we can be for that at this time anyway, that this is happening in our world. And I know that when I was little myself, that I was brought up by my grandparents, and there was not a meal that went by that we didn't say grace. My grandfather said grace. I love that country song by the Judge that says, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days when people really bowed their head to pray. How many of us really bow our head to pray, you know, over our food right now? Yes, that's one little thing that we can do to be grateful for. What else can we do then? What else can we do to have our Thanksgiving Day? Well, another thing that we can do is to begin to be thankful for the money that we have coming into our lives. It doesn't matter if that money is in the form of a Social Security check, if it's in the form of our investment money coming back to us. It doesn't matter if it's money that we're getting from work, whatever that work may be. That we bless it as it comes to us and say, thank you, God. Thank you for this energy in our life that we call money. And I'm blessing it, and we know that blessing it is going to help it to multiply and increase more and more. Speaking of money, when we have money in our culture, we need to pay bills, don't we? Have you ever thought about thanking and blessing the bills that you're paying? What a concept! As you sit down to write out those bills, to begin to thank God. Because you know what, with your utility company, they have been giving you the privilege of using that electricity, that water, whatever, for the whole month with the idea that you're going to pay it at the end of the month. Now we know what happens if you don't, and that's not so pleasant. But what if we begin thanking them and thanking everything for our car payment, our house payment? How wonderful it is that we live in such a luscious, wonderful place like America that is so abundant. One thing we can do, and especially even on your tithe check, any bill that you have, oops, this is somebody else's tithe check. Woo. Well, I bless that tithe check, but if you have your checks down here in the for line, where it says for, and you put, for mortgage or for house payment or whatever, instead put, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Or put infinite blessings. If you're embarrassed to put thank you, God, well, maybe you better look at that, but T-U-G. Nobody will know what that means but you. Thank you, God, that I'm able to pay this bill, that I'm able to give this tithe. Also, I learned from Reverend Sally Taylor, a great minister, about money. And on the back of the money, you see this one. And whenever I go out to eat, and there's this lovely little waitress that's there, serving me, it's important to give back, right? And so when I leave, I put down on the table this $1 bill or $2 or whatever it is that I'm giving for a tip, and I put my hand on it, and I say this, either quietly to myself, but I do say it, there is only one presence and one power in my life, and that is God, the good, omnipotent. Blessing the money that's going to go to that waitress and put it back into circulation. Another way we can bless our Thanksgiving Day. On page 62 of the wonderful book, God Will See You Through, you know how important this is to me, Linda. We keep it right by our side, by Mary Kupferle. She shares with us why Thanksgiving is so important. She says, Thanksgiving is a builder and a strengthener. Thankfulness is a healer, a multiplier of the good, and a dissolver of the negative. Right there, that's wonderful in itself. Thankfulness is a lifter and a life giver. Thankfulness is a fortifier and a comforter. Thankfulness is an attracting power for blessings. It will help lighten any load or burden. It's an ingredient of spirit that produces miracles in the life of anyone in any situation. In any situation. How wonderful is that? So it really doesn't matter if today you're sitting there and your heart is overflowing right now with thanksgiving, or if on the other hand your heart is filled with a little bit of unhappiness and discouragement and fear. Ooh. I was talking with Linda the other night, and I said, well, I've got a confession to make, and I'm going to make it at church. I guess this is the time, Linda, I got to make it. I thought, just go on. I don't want to make a confession in front of church. But I have a confession to make that the other day I got into fear. And how many times have I been up here and saying, don't get into fear? I know, Bertram, you said it at Conversations with God, don't get into fear. Remember that? Well, I watched something on TV that I knew better than to watch. The show was called Prophets of Doom. What was I thinking? Whatever was I thinking? And not only that, then I watched a whole hour about Sandy and all the devastation. Oh my gosh, you're right. What was I thinking? Do you know how I felt after that? I felt so terrible. I was in so much fear and confusion and going, and then finally I got back into the mode like, what are you doing? Whatever are you doing? You know better. You know better than to do that. You stand up there week after week and say to people, don't get into fear. God's in charge. Oh, so thank you, God. Thank you. So you're, okay, thank you. I know. I was going to say the other night, hey, Bertram, when we do get into fear, can we call each other and go, I'm in fear. Tell me the truth of my being. Okay, we'll do that. Tell me the truth. Okay. So no matter what state of mind that we happen to be in, though, it's important to use those words, thank you, God. Now, we're not going to say, well, thank you, God, for sending Sandy along, because we know that Sandy wasn't God's doing anyway, right? All right. So, but thank you, God, to help me through it, that I can pray about, what has happened and send love and light to that area. And if I feel inclined, that perhaps I can help out financially in some way, somewhere. Again, I'd like to quote from The Quest about our responsibility. You see, it's really our responsibility. And they say, it is your responsibility then to ignite the feelings of thanksgiving within yourself. Even when you're feeling bad, even when you're feeling in fear like that. While you may be feeling ungrateful because of a present challenge, deep within you are the embers of thanksgiving, waiting to be fanned into full blaze. Oh, wonderful. So we're going to fan those embers. With enough fanning, an attitude of gratitude will easily become a habit. So that's good. When you go off the path a little bit and go watch something like that, you got to fan those embers again and bring it back. Like I'm going to put on that armor of God, and I know that everything is in perfect divine order, no matter what the outer appearances are in our world. Right, Bertrand? Right. Thank you. Well, Jesus, our way shower, gave us so many examples of thanksgiving, especially in the story of Lazarus. And we can see that in John chapter 11, verses 41 through 42. And he said these words before he called Lazarus forth from the tomb. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. I knew thou hearest me always. We find another example in Matthew chapter 14, verse 19, about Jesus feeding the 5,000. Jesus took 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he looked up to heaven and blessed what he had. And everyone was filled that were there. And there were 12 baskets of leftovers. So right here it's saying, bless what you have. Bless what money that you do have. Bless your income, and it will multiply. It will multiply. Blessing in an impossible situation will really bring forth your good. So my friends, do you want more of God in your life and the good of God in your life? Then begin to praise and thank God daily. Do you want wholeness in your physical body and health? Then begin to thank and praise your organs, your tissues, and health will come to you. Do you want more prosperity and abundance? Then praise and give thanks for the resources that you do have, and you'll find overflowing abundance in new and really creative ways. So my friends, I propose again that you let every day be your Thanksgiving day. God bless you.